Let's talk about the pandemic, in particular, the $5 trillion wealth transfer that didn't benefit small businesses, it didn't help the working class, but it instead went straight to the pockets of billionaires and their government lackeys. What am I talking about? Well, as it turns out, the very people that were recommending the measures and the medicines for the pandemic were the very people that benefited. Now, why am I not surprised? And I doubt you are too. I did a little bit of digging and I found out two very important things. One, former chief medical advisor to the president, Dr. Anthony Fauci, apparently he's charging up to $100,000 for speaking engagements. Just look here. Like they say, follow the science, starting at $50,000 an hour. Now, some people live their entire lives without seeing this kind of money. Dr. Anthony Fauci gets it just by running his mouth for an hour. Talk about working the system. Second pandemic personality that we're going to be looking into today is billionaire Bill Gates. Now, we all know about his supposed philanthropy and how he allegedly predicted the pandemic way back in 2017-ish. But what the mainstream media channels seem to be overlooking is the fact that Bill Gates also secured hundreds of millions of dollars in profits from mRNA stock sales before suddenly changing tune on vaccine technology. Yeah, that's right, guys. Bill Gates turned his $55 million vaccine investment in Pfizer's partner BioNTech into over $550 million in just 2 years. That's right, guys. He made $500 million in just 2 years, completely passive income. Now, I guess Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci, they're thinking C-19 for their major career and net worth boosts, aren't they? But hey, let me know what you guys think. Do you think that it's a coincidence that these are the very same people benefiting from the pandemic? I don't know. Drop me a quick comment down below. Let me know what you guys think and where you stand. Oh, and make sure you stay until the end because we're going to answer a big question regarding investing. Are pharma stocks worth investing in right now? The answer to that and so much more in our video today. So definitely stick around for that. Also, if you own a home, make sure your home is protected. Get your free home warranty quote. The link is in the description down below. And of course, this video is probably going to get suppressed. So if you could just kindly drop a quick like for the video, I totally appreciate that. And if you're interested in your daily dose of the truth when it comes to the US economy, the stock market, global happenings, housing market, and everything that's going on in Washington, D.C. that affects your lives, our families, and our bank accounts, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. You know what, guys? Halfway through my research into this, I found myself becoming just a little bit emotional. Emotional for the many people who fell for this agenda so quickly, the many people who suffered because they saw through the bull and were human enough to resist manufactured truth. So yeah, we got to keep fighting for those who couldn't make it this far, you know what I mean? But let's start off with the scientific community. Now, I think it's about time that the scientific community admit that they made some pretty huge mistakes about C-19 and it cost people their lives. Now, I mean, I was like most of you. At first, I strongly supported the efforts of the public health authorities when it came to this whole pandemic. I believe that the authorities responded to the largest public health crisis of our lives with compassion, diligence, scientific expertise. You guys remember the call for lockdowns, vaccines, and boosters? I was confused when that first came out. The scientific community, they were wrong, and it cost lives. The scientific community, from the CDC to the WHO to the FDA and their representatives, repeatedly overstated the evidence and misled the public about their views and policies regarding natural versus artificial immunity, school closures and disease transmission, aerosol spread, mask mandates, vaccine effectiveness, and safety, especially among the young. All of these were scientific mistakes at the time, not in hindsight. They knew at the time that they were fooling the American people. And amazingly enough, some of these mistakes still persist up to this present day. But really, it was a matter of preference for these people in power. Rather than following the science and letting people choose what was right for them, the scientific community, or at least the people up at the top, they created policy based on their own personal preferences. Then they cherry-picked data to justify their choices, and then gaslighted the nation and portrayed anybody opposing voices as misguided, ignorant, selfish, and evil. Essentially, people like Fauci, Biden, and Gates systemically minimized the downsides of the interventions that they imposed. Mind you, these were imposed without the input, consent, and recognition of those forced to live with them. You know how many people got fired over refusing to follow vaccine mandates? Or get this, they took a vaccine mandate against their will just to keep their job so that they could put food on the table. Yeah, a lot of people got hit with this. Basically, people up top violated the rights of those who would be most negatively impacted by our policies: the poor, the working class, the small business owners, blacks and Latinos, and children. The government conspired with big tech to aggressively suppress any alternative speech and labeled it things like misinformation, scientific illiteracy, and ignorance. Bottom line, the government crafted policy for the people without consulting them. When this goes down down in the history books, experts, they're going to be saying that the course of the pandemic in the United States might have had a very different outcome, but with far fewer lost lives. But instead, what we witnessed was a massive and ongoing loss of life in America due to distrust of vaccines and the healthcare system, a massive concentration in wealth by already wealthy elites, a rise in suicides and gun violence, especially among the poor, a near doubling of the rate of depression and anxiety disorders, especially among the young, a catastrophic loss of educational attainment among already disadvantaged children, and among those most vulnerable, a massive loss of trust in the healthcare system, science authorities, and political leaders more broadly. So what do they need to do? Plain and simple, bring it all out in the open. Scientists should publicly discuss what went right and what went wrong during the pandemic, and where we could have done better. It's okay to be wrong and admit where they were wrong and what they learned. That's a central part of the way science works. But it looks like these people are too entrenched in their group think and too afraid to publicly take responsibility to do this. The saddest thing is the fact that, all of these people who profited from the pandemic will never face any kind of trouble from it. I knew it all along. We need a worldwide court hearing, crime against humanity. I feel like somebody needs to start a class action lawsuit against these people responsible for those who lost their businesses and their livelihood, not to mention their lives. But what do you guys think? I can't tell you how many people have emailed and said in the comments how they've lost so many friends, family members, so many opportunities just because their eyes were open. These people on the top of this thing will never ever be able to admit that they were just flat out wrong. So first on the list, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Here he is talking about his interactions with Congress and Senator Rand Paul.
Now, with all due respect, I'm not going to take that from anybody, including a senator.
You got angry at times in some of the congressional hearings when you were personally attacked. Do you have any regrets about the way that you handled that?
I think 99.9% of the time I have been my usual self, which is very calm and measured. The only time I really got upset was when Senator Paul totally inappropriately on national TV that was following that hearing accused me of being responsible for the death of 5 million people.
Okay, so Dr. Anthony Fauci claims that he's all about the science. But what makes that so hard to believe is the counterfact that Fauci's making some serious bank and cash flow from his pandemic popularity. Now, I just found out that he's charging as much as $100,000 just for speaking engagements months after leaving his position in the Biden administration. The former director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases listing on leading motivational speakers I gotta laugh at this one. Motivational speakers is listed under the motivational speakers and healthcare speakers categories. This is unreal. His fee ranges for speaking engagements anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. Fauci is scheduled to give this commencement address to the Yale School of Medicine on May 22nd. The director of rapid response for Governor Ron DeSantis' re-election campaign, Christina Pushaw, criticized the former chief medical advisor to President Biden online for his speaking fee, tweeting a picture of the listing with the caption, "Seriously?" I can't make this stuff up, guys. Substack writer Jordan Schachtel responded to the tweet saying, quote, "Follow the science, starting at $50,000 an hour." The NIAID director's net worth was estimated to be more than $10 million as recently as January 2022. And get this, guys, when he was talking up the C-19 and pushing vaccines into people's arms, Fauci was also the highest paid employee in the federal government at roughly $480,000 in 2022. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think his paycheck's a little bit bigger than President Biden's. Now, Fauci retired from his position at the NIAID and as a medical advisor to President Biden at the end of last year. Fauci also served as a part of the White House C-19 task force during the Trump administration. So what do you guys think about Fauci making more in an hour than most people make in their entire lifetime? Drop a quick comment down below. Another one here, billionaire tech entrepreneur and self-proclaimed philanthropist Bill Gates. Apparently, Bill Gates secured hundreds of millions of dollars in profits from his foundation's impeccably timed investment in BioNTech, the Pfizer partner for its mRNA C-19 shots, before dramatically reversing course and proceeding to openly cast doubt on the whole mRNA technology. Now, in reviewing SEC filings, they found that Gates Foundation holdings in BioNTech went from 1,038,000 shares to 148,000 shares over the course of the third quarter in 2021, downsizing the Gates position in the mRNA vaccine manufacturer by 86% of shares held. Now, Now, in September 2019, just before C-19 hysteria made its way through the world, the Gates Foundation secured its shares in Pfizer vaccine partner through an early deal with an agreed-upon purchase price of $18.10 a share. With an average sale price of around $300 per share in Q3 of 2021, this means that the Gates Foundation banked roughly $260 million in cash from the sale, and $242 million became untaxed profit given the fact that the money was invested through the foundation. So this means that the Gates Foundation secured a return of over 15 times more than its initial investment. Over the next quarter, Gates unloaded 1.4 million shares of CureVac, another German-based mRNA company that has partnered with several mRNA shot manufacturers, banking an estimated $50 million. Then, after selling his mRNA company shares and making a killer profit, Gates changed his tune on the tech behind this miracle cure. Gates, who once claimed that this vaccination with mRNA shots had a preventative effect and it kind of helps your heart, began to criticize the experimental injections. In November 2021, Gates, after dumping 86% of his BioNTech share bag, shockingly declared that we need a new way of doing vaccines. According to Gates, quote, "We didn't have vaccines that block transmission," end quote. Now that's contradictory to all of his previous interviews in which he continuously claimed the shots, they were safe and significantly blocked transmission. And just recently, Gates continued to distance himself from the once hyped technology that he used to secure hundreds of millions of dollars in pandemic profits. Oh, the timing of everything. He said in a recent interview, quote, "We need to fix the three problems of mRNA vaccines. The current vaccines are not infection blocking. They're not broad. So when new variants come up, you lose protection, and they have very short duration, particularly in people who matter, which are the old people." End quote. So has he made a comment on his BioNTech cash out before his major 180 turnaround? Nope, not a peep from the tech billionaire. Wonder why. Now, can we make the same kind of passive income as Bill Gates from these pharma stocks? Well, there are some interesting stock options on the market today, but let's check them out. A market-beating stock at a reasonable valuation is Bristol Myers Squibb. Yeah, I know, sounds boring, right? But hey, we really can't argue with the results. And Bristol Myers Squibb, they did something few corporations managed to pull off in the past year. It's beat the market and stayed in the green. And with a smaller price to earnings ratio than the pharma industry on average, Bristol Myers may be one of the best, surprisingly undervalued stocks by investors. Now, looking forward, Bristol Myers has earned important new drug approvals since 2019 that are helping rejuvenate its portfolio of medicines. And with its vast pipeline, more approvals and label expansions are likely on the way. So yeah, Bristol Myers Squibb, they could be an ideal dirt cheap stock for value and income-seeking investors alike. Of course, none of this is investment advice. I'm just sharing with you guys some cool, interesting key points that I found on a stock that may be worth looking into. Now, a better bargain than you might think might be Pfizer. Now, whether you like them or not, that's debatable, but I'm just talking about the money here. Their C-19 products may be dropping, but Pfizer thinks that its sales for C-19 vaccine Comirnaty and C-19 antiviral therapy Paxlovid will start growing again beginning in 2024. Now, it's also predicting that the combination of C-19 flu vaccines will boost sales significantly in 2025. So what could they be planning here for 2025 that would cause these spikes 2024, 2025-ish? You gotta wonder, are they predicting another C-19 wave in the next few years? Anyway, Pfizer still has a large cash stockpile and ample cash flow to fund additional business development activities, all thanks to their C-19 profits. So yeah, Pfizer's growth prospects are actually pretty good. Again, speaking strictly from a monetary perspective. This puts the stock's current valuation in a much more attractive light. So yeah, if you want to take a page out of Bill Gates' playbook, diversify your income streams with some passive income investments in the stock market, these could be some options. Try looking into pharma stocks like Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer for starters. These aren't the only ones. Now, of course, always helps to do your homework. Never invest in anything you don't personally believe in or that you haven't already done your own due diligence in. I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not a tax advisor. So always do your homework, always do your own due diligence. But let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm always here. I'm always available in the comment section. So anyway, more financial news and C-19 developments to keep an eye on. Hope you guys caught all of the headlines in today's C-19 update and daily news report. Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates profiting big time from their pandemic popularity, plus some pharma stocks you can look into. And as always, guys, appreciate you tuning in. Big thanks for always hitting the like button. See you guys on the next one. Please be kind to one another and be safe.